Howdy everyone, Shatterer here, and I am your coach of the Sarasota Scissors. Today I have for you my team and battle analysis for the Woods Season 5, Week 7. We're up against Jer, coach of the Seattle Pidgeots. Now, looking at his team, it's pretty obvious what kinds of synergies he's going for. He's obviously got that sand package with the Dracozolt, the Gigalith, the Dugtrio, Alola, that sort of thing. We are allowing hidden abilities this season, so Dracozolt can have access to Sand Rush, so no need to slap a scarf on it for Bolt Beak to be doing the work. I actually used Dracozolt last season, but without that Sand boost, you're a lot more limited, and knowing my luck with Hustle, it's probably for the best that Jer has a slightly better version of the Pokemon to work with. Aside from that, he also has Rabombi for webs, a lot of bulk between Mandibuzz, Gigalith, Sylveon, Quagsire, Thwackey even. Eviolite Thwackey with grassy terrain can be a bit of a nuisance. He has Salazzle to whittle things down with Toxic, no matter what they are, and his last two do a decent job of just punching holes in teams where they're needed. So this is a bit of an interesting week for building for sure. So looking at this, my first thought was, well, Toxtricity seems really good against him. With this particular spread, Boom Burst 2-hit KOs Dugtrio Alola, and that's the only thing, aside from Quagsire, that can safely come in on this thing and not just take a shit ton of damage. So we're bringing it this week. We got a pretty basic Life Orb spread, Overdrive Volt Switch, Sludge Wave Boom Burst, just meant to keep my momentum up and get damage in where I can, because I think the only way I'm going to win this week is go into Toxtricity and click buttons. Maybe the Life Orb isn't necessary, but we're going with it for right now. This thing is probably going to be the linchpin that decides whether or not we win this game. So next up, I decided to bring some extra bulk, and also an answer to Dracozolt. We have Buns, the Sandaconda, rocking Assault Vest because, honestly, things like Sylveon can do heaps of damage to me, but I'd like to be able to do a lot to them in return without immediately just getting 2-hit KO'd. So we're running Earthquake, Stone Edge, Iron Head, and Fire Fang. This thing's move pool... Excuse me. This thing's move pool isn't all that great. I mean, it gets Coil, it gets Stealth Rocks, it gets Whirlwind, and all that stuff, but with an Assault Vest, your coverage options are pretty limited, so we're basically running 4 offensive moves that aren't redundant in their type coverage, and cover as many things as possible. You'll notice that we're running a minus speed nature. That's because we are bringing Trick Room this week. If he brings Dracozolt, he is going to get his speed stat taken advantage of. And he probably is going to expect that. And good on him if he does. We've brought it the last 3 weeks or something like that. Maybe it's time to bring some variety. But for now, we're going with this. Next up, we have a returning favorite, Hulk Hogan, wearing an Assault Vest with a similar set to last week. Flare Blitz, knockoff, Earthquake, Iron Head. I figured it was either going to be Assault Vest or Heavy Duty Boots, and given that, well, he does have hazards, but given that he probably doesn't want to set certain hazards, I'm wondering if he's actually going to bring any at all, because it's really easy for us to deal with it with things like Silvally, and if he brings sticky webs, that actually benefits me because, again, Trick Room. So I'm going with Assault Vest just to live maybe a hit from Sylveon or some other special attacker, that sort of thing. Next up, we have Bronzong with pretty basic spread here. That should have an item, but we've got Trick Room, Gyro Ball, Earthquake, and Stealth Rock. I was debating whether my rocker this week would be Bronzong or Sandaconda, and I figured Bronzong could probably make better use of it, so here we are. Pretty basic spread, meant to set up Trick Room, decent coverage for the rest of his team. Obviously gets walled out by things like Mandibuzz since I don't have Toxic. Gets walled out by Thwackey as well, but hopefully with Toxtricity we can handle that one just fine. And finally, sorry, not finally, but I'm bringing Chimera, Stilwally Fairy, with pretty bulky spread this week. I'm running this particular EV spread specifically to outspeed very specific things on his team. If we go back and look, if we go back and look at his chart here, the only thing that I'm probably going to outspeed is Dracozolt and maybe Sylveon. So I built Silvally to outspeed those and only those, and just sunk the rest into HP and attack. we're running Defog, Parting Shot, Multi-Attack, and Grass Pledge for Quagsire, because as of this point, we don't really have an answer to it. So it's nice to have a little bit of coverage on something that he might not expect it on if he does decide to bring Quagsire, which, considering I'm bringing Toxtricity, might be a fair assumption. Finally, we have Pringles, and Pringles is coming with basic spread again: Trick Room, Scald, Giga Drain, and Strength Sap. We're looking to get Trick Room up, maybe check Gigalith, check Dracozolt, kind of, I guess, if I can get a Scald off. Not really. I don't know why I would stay in on that thing, but anyway, pretty obvious, pretty basic spread. Pretty basic spreads all around, really. For this week, not really trying to go super extravagant. Keep it simple, stupid. We're running just, basic spreads, hoping that maybe simple is the answer, and we'll see how that goes. So for now, I will turn it over to the battle, and I will see y'all in just 1 second. Okay, here we are. So this week, looking at his team, he did not bring the Dracozolt, nor did he bring the Quagsire. I expected a very different team than what he actually brought, and this might be a bit of a problem, especially considering how we didn't build very well for Thwackey, aside from, we have Toxtricity and Incineroar, but obviously he has answers to both of those, and obviously he's probably not going to be setting up, webs or anything like that, so bit of a rough spot, but we'll see how it goes. So let's get this going. So he leads Ribombee and goes for Moonblast right off the bat. Does a shit ton of damage, which leads me to think probably choiced, so I just go for Parting Shot. Figured it was the safest bet regardless of what he wanted to do, and I thought this is probably a good opportunity to get my Trick Room up, so I'm going to do that. I went into Bronzong and did just that. Got my Trick Room up, and we are sitting pretty. So I swap out into Incineroar. Pretty safe bet here. Didn't want to go into Toxtricity because at the time I didn't know what he had. I didn't know if he had anything to deal with it, and I just figured Incineroar was safer. So he goes out into Gigalith, and I get a knockoff on him, which I guess is whatever. I mean, it's gonna at least stop him from getting even more HP back, but with the grassy terrain up, that's probably unavoidable anyway. So I go out into Jellicent, pretty safe swap here, but he reads that and goes for Toxic. Maybe Bronzong would have been safer. I'm not exactly sure why I decided to go out to Jellicent here. That was a bit of a mistake, especially since I have no way to handle Thwackey with it. I really have no way to handle Thwackey with either of my walls, and that's a bit of a problem. So I go out into Toxtricity here because at this point I know that he doesn't really get anything to touch me, especially with the grassy terrain up. Earthquake does not work in grassy terrain. You need a different ground type move other than Earthquake, if I'm not mistaken. So Boom Burst here on Point Break, nice nickname by the way, does a lot of damage. We take that for sure. And I go out into Bronzong thinking, he's probably going to go for Earthquake or something, but no, he takes that opportunity to get his rocks up. I figured, yeah, I'm probably going to do the same thing because, well, I mean, I need rocks up if I'm going to stop him from just swapping over and over and over like I'm doing. So I go out into Silvally. He expects the swap of some kind, so he goes for U-turn and goes out into Ribombee, which I know is faster than me, and it's just going to take the KO. So first blood goes to Jer. Unfortunate, but it's not unwinnable yet. So at this point, I figure, well, Toxtricity doesn't have a better chance to come in than now, and since I think he's choiced, he's not going to hit me with Psychic. So this time, he goes out into Gigalith, and I respect that because he wants to keep Dugtrio around as a revenge killer. I go for Overdrive. It does about 35%, but according to my calcs, that was a max roll, so at 36, he will not die. Unfortunate. So I go out into Sandaconda thinking it's probably the safest bet. He goes for Stomping Tantrum. At this point, I had my chance to kill him. I should have taken that chance, for sure. I tried to make a read that I absolutely had no business making, and went for Fire Fang, but he went and got a Toxic off on me. That is unfortunate. I misvalued that Pokemon severely. So at this point, he swaps out into Mandibuzz, which I guess has heavy-duty boots, and reads my Earthquake, so that is 0 for 2 on that particular read. At this point, I'm just like, screw it. I'm clicking Stone Edge. I don't care what comes in. I need to hit something. So he goes into Golisopod, so 1 of 3 at least. Puts him down to a really good percent and forces him to eventually defog off if he wants to get any use of Golisopod, which is good. So he goes into Thwackey. Obviously, to revenge kill me, I don't really have a way to touch him, and down goes the Thwackey. I mean, I have Fire Fang, but it doesn't do much. So Thwackey takes Sandaconda down, and we're in a bit of a rough situation. I go out into Incineroar here, thinking it's better than Toxtricity. If Toxtricity is going to be my win con, I need to save it as much as I can, so I don't just take unnecessary damage. He goes into Gigalith and dies to a Flare Blitz. Yeah, so we finally got something down. We definitely had our chance to do the Gigalith KO without any major complications, but he got his sand up one more time, and that's really unfortunate because it's going to start chipping away at things, and this thing's going to do more damage. So I go into Bronzong thinking I'll dodge the Earthquake or whatever. He goes for Night Slash. He's really reading me like a book this week, and that does not say very many good things about my play. So I did. Wow, that came off like an insult when I did not mean it to. Jer, I am sorry, but that was more of an insult towards me because my play is iffy this week. But anyway, he goes out into Mandibuzz. Fair enough. It's pretty safe. He walls the hell out of me. Gyro Ball does like 14%. And at this point, I'm just waiting for him to click Defog and hurt me. So he goes for Defog here on the Incineroar swap. Fair enough. Incineroar does nothing to this thing, but I figured I need to come out into it. I need to do something right now until I can get Toxtricity in, because I don't want Toxtricity taking a Flare Blitz or Brave Bird, excuse me, Flying type Flare Blitz, if it doesn't need to. So I go for Flare Blitz here, just waiting to die. He goes for Brave Bird here. Fair enough. On his behalf, I would have probably gone for Roost, but to each their own, I guess. Doesn't really matter. So I go into Toxtricity knowing that I'm faster. Go for Boom Burst here. Thank God I got a max roll, because I didn't want him to get the free swap into a Alolan Dugtrio, and down goes the Mandibuzz. So now in comes the Dugtrio, and I'm like, okay, I need to start playing intelligently. I'm going into this thing, even though it dies to the same things that Bronzong does, but it's toxic, so it's less likely to live a long time, and it does even less to Thwackey. So he gets his rocks back up. Not good. I get my Trick Room up. Whatever, I guess. He's just going to go back into Thwackey. I really should have just gone for Scald here. I overvalued Trick Room here. That was my mistake. So here, I go for Scald, hoping for a burn. Didn't get it. Probably just going to sit here and wait for my inevitable demise. So I go for Strength Sap, hoping to at least cripple this thing down. So maybe, just maybe, I can go into Toxtricity and get something going. But that doesn't appear to be the case. So he Leech Seeds me, presumably to just get some HP up and make sure that he doesn't get whittled down to where something can revenge kill him. Not sure exactly what Jellicent would do, but whatever. He goes into Rabombi. I still have one turn left on my Trick Room, but my guess is that he's going to just, swap back into Thwackey and make the extremely safe play. I go into Bronzong here, not exactly sure why I did that. That was actually really bad for me. I think I threw the game by doing that. I might have been able to win if I sacked off Jellicent there. That was absolutely my bad, and I fell right into his bait. He goes for First Impression, and at this point, the game is pretty much over. There's not much I can do to avoid him Golisopoding me down when my Toxtricity gets whittled down. I really, really needed that to not happen. So he goes into this thing. I get my Trick Room back up, but at this point, I'm just waiting to get Thwackied. A little bit unfortunate, but I guess given I wasn't playing that well in the beginning of this match, I let Sandaconda go without really doing anything. I overvalued his Gigalith. I overvalued Trick Room. It's unfortunate to see. I was really, really hoping for a W this week, but I can't really be mad. Jared played really well. He deserved that W for sure, and there's always next week. Hopefully I can pull something out next week and maintain my slot for playoffs. I think as of right now I'm still slotted for it, but barely. So I gotta start, putting up or shutting up if I'm going to actually pull this one off. But again, no discredit to you, Jer. You did incredibly well. I am very smooth of brain sometimes, and it shows, but it's okay. It's just a game, and we're here to have fun. So I learned something this week for sure. First, my walls, if I'm going to bring them, especially if both of them are weak to the same Pokemon, or at least get walled out by it, they need to have Toxic. He didn't have a Cleric for Aromatherapy, so I needed to bring Toxic in order to get this Thwackey to go away. Unfortunate, but here we are. So I take the U-turn here, and he goes into Golisopod Alolan Dugtrio to Point Break me with high horsepower. So anyway, aside from Toxic, I need to start learning how to value certain things better. Obviously, the sand was there to whittle me down and to boost Dugtrio's power, not to boost any Dracozold's speed, because Dracozold wasn't brought. So I needed to recognize where he was going to sack that Pokemon off, and just, oh, I'm gonna get a Toxic off if I can on the Sandaconda. If he chokes, then I'll get it off. If not, then we take those. But oh well. Again, I'm starting to ramble at this point. I know I'm starting to repeat myself, but uh, it's fine. It really, really is. And we're definitely going to try our absolute hardest to make a pullback week 8 and see if we can't keep our positive win-loss ratio. So, GG's, Jer. Good luck moving forward. Same with all the rest of y'all in the woods. Good luck moving forward as we move closer to playoffs. And for all y'all watching, thank you so much. I will catch y'all next time. Cheers, folks.